And it's an attitude. In our organization, we've specified certain attitudes that we need. One of those is ownership, all right? We don't want somebody to come to the organization and to feel that there is the organization and there is them. So they start demanding the organization to do more for them, yet they don't realize that the success of the organization depends on them. So the attitude, we have the attitude of ownership, a positive attitude, an attitude of willing to support others, and what we call an extra mile attitude. This is an attitude of the mind which we need students to embrace. The third thing, we always say, if an employee has got a good ability and a good attitude, they will help us to improve our organizational processes because these are in continuous improvement, right? So if those three things work, we have another one, which is so important in this day and age, which has been a little bit neglected, is the foundation. We call it a foundation of trust based on personal integrity. We've identified this in our organization. Now we find that a number of students may come with an ability, but they want to take shortcuts, and therefore we cannot trust them. I do not know to what extent universities are addressing the issue of values, but I know that there are certain universities that emphasize values very greatly, and for example, Strathmore University does this, I think, very well, and I think others are doing it, but I know the example of Strathmore. They have an ethics core course for all programs, okay? And this is a big issue for us in the private sector. So if you are to get your students ready for the workplace, I think they need to address the ability, the attitudes, and that issue of trust based on personal integrity. I think that's what I just want to mention there. The next point I want to just very briefly comment, because I know we don't have time, is the issue of how do we change the mindsets? And I think there was a question of how do universities engage with the private sector. But very quickly, I just want to mention that the universities and institutions of learning offer instruction, right? And I think the professor put it very well. Apart from instruction, we need to transmit certain values. And I think value transmission is done in the home. Now we live in a world where we are all so busy, we have no time to transmit any values at home. And then we try to leave it to the schools and the universities to transmit those values. And this is where I think we have not managed very well. So we need to maybe examine this, and the universities, I think, can be areas of where the values and beliefs can be transmitted. Because at the end of the day, I think Mr. Obeli there, he mentioned the issue of our students do not want to work at the bottom of the value chain. It's because of what they believe. It's the values that they have. This is dirty business. Why should I be involved in it? But that's a value that they've got from somewhere. And the world is giving that value constantly. So the issue of the values, and I talked about the social aspects of the entrepreneurs, the issue of fraternity, the issue of making society better, those are all values. But where do they come from? Are the universities working on those values? The main values right now, unfortunately, are individualism and get rich as quickly as possible and don't get caught. This is a tragedy, yeah?
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's a huge tragedy. But who is addressing this? If it's not being addressed at home, then it has to be addressed in the institution. And as I said, the institutions need to focus on this, in my view. And I've seen some doing it very well and others not. So I think those are the main points I want to comment on. And again, there's the issue of engagement. Private sector, I think there was a passionate plea for private sector to engage with the institutions. And the observation that the private sector does not have time, and when you come to discuss money, then we don't even have the money. And even if we have it, we don't use it charitably with the university. Unfortunately, we also caught up in huge demands for profitability. Shareholders demand a lot, and there's a lot of pressure to make money. But again, depending on the leadership within the private sector organizations, for example, in any organization, there's a leadership ethos, and that depends usually on the person responsible. What is his value base? You may find engagement is much easier with those leaders who have an ethos of saying, we need to develop the future generation, so let us engage with the universities. So if you can identify those organizations with those kind of leaders, it will be easier. Yeah? And I think that's what I can comment on that particular issue. It's very specific to the individual leadership. Yeah.
The youth were engaging. And as I said, I'm head of PR, but I'm also head of administration. So I'm doing a lot of the hiring. Don't have to consult my boss on everybody I take into the company. If he was here, he would say that's not true. But in reality, I can actually hire people without him knowing. And it's what I've been kind of doing. I take my own initiative and creativity, but something about hiring people at 23 and 24, fresh out of school. They're uncorrupted, they are ambitious, they want to succeed, they are very techy, computerized. I wanted to take some pictures as I was presenting. So I can't see him here, but there he is over there. I gave this gentleman over there the phone and I said, and I have a Galaxy. I was like, do you know how to work it? And he's like, of course he knows how to work it. Yeah? So there's a quality that they're bringing. It's not, the youth are not beggars at our door when they're looking for a job. The good ones will get in, and the ones that you feel like they're teachable, you're still going to hire them, and then you have to invest in the teaching. Even university is great. I have a degree in political science, and I was a diplomat after that. There's a big difference between theory life and practical life. And the experience you get on the ground working is beneficial, but you need to invest in them once you bring them in. You're not throwing them in the water and saying swim. Yes, to a degree, yes. But you've also got to really hold hand in order to get a good result and invest. I was asked about the students in relation to Jomo Kenyatta. Actually, the Farming is Cool internship competition 2 years ago was 25 students from Jomo Kenyatta, 25 from Egerton. The model I gave, you asked me how are they doing, the students. The model I gave of the lady who was hired at 15,000 and now has 44,000 salary with a car and all, is from Jomo Kenyatta. Her name is Florence. She's our post-harvest assistant manager. And she came at a time where she had the knowledge and we needed to develop the field. So the manager took her as a second in command. Now there's 3 people working under her. Yeah, so she's grown up with that. You asked how Egerton succeeded. The answer was on the presentation. Of 35 students, the clients asked them to stay and paid them a salary, meaning it worked out wonderfully. Your question on the government taking the idea. As to how much money we've invested, Amiran's a $100 million company, but as the head of PR, I'll tell you the PR budget is tiny. The stuff we're doing is very media eventish, creative. You don't see Amiran paying for huge full pages in the Nation or the newspaper or the TV. We're not there. We're driving from inside out. Yeah, like a volcano erupting, if you will. And it's spreading. I have no fear of government taking over the idea. By the way, I wish they will. If they do it right, then the more partners, the better. We're constantly chasing government to join us on every initiative, A, out of respect, and B, you saw my presentation, one of the highlight pictures was the president, because the president acknowledging the Farming is Cool students at the show was dream. Yeah, it was the perfect scenario. The youth fund loan, you were asking over there if the youth fund loan might wane. Yeah? We're on a journey. There's challenges all the time. And we don't know how things are going to turn out. But we're trying creatively, we're forging partnerships, we're hoping that all of the partners will stay responsible. Right now, the loans are being paid back. So far, so good. Equity Bank will tell you the default rate on the Together for the Farmers loan is less than 10%. I'll take that anytime. You asked what about the old in farming. You notice the age of the Amiran farmer, the average was 30. That means there's somebody bringing up the average, yeah? We have a lot of experienced farmers. The amazing, we take the graduating class. And we're open to that. We're open to continuing. There's a limit to how much Amiran can take people into the Amiran workforce. But that's not the point. If we have 10,000 farmers practicing the farmer's kit today, I'll give you the example of the Shamba boy, the farm manager of the farmer's kit of one of the clients in Kisumu, and he's making money on the side, 2 other clients because he's good at it. So they're Amiran clients, but he's doing 3 kits being paid by all 3 separately. Entrepreneurship. With the right attitude. Go through the mindset change yourself so you can teach it to your students, obviously, but when we talk of private sector involvement, okay? As Deputy Ambassador of Israel here 10 years ago, I worked with Mashav, which is Israel's Center for International Development, and we were the donor. And I felt like, not criticism to Mashav, but to all the donor partners we were working with, I felt like we're all teaching this continent how to drive and no one has a car. Yeah, we train, we teach. It's frustrating to learn a skill that you cannot implement. So you've got to build a model where people can implement. And that model must be commercially sustainable. That's what I've learned from private sector. It's not enough to have sustainable development. It needs to be commercially sustainable development for it to stay. So the banks lending need to get paid back and make their money. The farmers need to make their money. The market needs to make their money. The Amirans and the input suppliers need to make their money. And if everybody's making money, it'll continue. So commercially sustainable development, that's the private sector part. About the distortions, you were asking about distortions. We have to say, and I said it in the presentation and we say it in all the trainings, it's not easy. There's no magical miracle solutions. Free money comes from the lottery and it usually comes to people, God gives it to the ones who don't have the talent to do for themselves, yeah? Like you don't see professor this or that won the lottery, yeah? But it's not easy. You have to explain to them that there's a responsibility here. Yariv always says, don't cut corners. You can't cut corners. Not in the technology you're supplying or the knowledge you're supplying, and not as the farmer doing it, yeah? And then the last one is to tell you look at the, when you say, what are all the challenges and so on. Challenge is opportunity. There was no financing for farmers and that was a challenge, and it created the opportunity to partner with people who did. There was no, the story of the two salesmen who go to the African island by their company, they're sent, and the first one calls back to the boss and says, listen, there's nothing to be done here, everybody's walking barefoot. And the other guy calls back and says, listen, everybody's walking barefoot, we can make a killing here in shoes, in socks, and things like that, yeah? So the point is, glasses half full, glasses half empty. And I like to think that the future of Kenya, East Africa, Africa, is very, very bright. Understand, the most available means of wealth creation in Africa is agribusiness.
That's true.
In Israel, we have a desert, we have nothing, and we made our money off innovation. Israel's the startup country. We create solutions, your flash disk, your laptop, your drip irrigation. Israel creates solutions where you can't make money from no minerals and nothing, you use that. But Kenya has, Africa has, fertile land, water, capable farmers. They say that God gives nuts to people who don't have teeth. When they ask us what we do at Amiran, we say we grow teeth.
I'm a founder of Excel Road Concern. I started Excel in 1999. My first office was equivalent to half of this desk, half of it. Whenever I would want to discuss with a client, I would get out of my chair and discuss outside and come back and sit. In 2003, I was inspired. The demand was becoming huge because ICRAF as research institution was not mandated to make a profit. And then we needed this to be taken on by the private sector. I saw an opportunity in a workshop like here. Put the team together. In 2003, we incorporated as a company. As I talk now, Excel operates in 11 African countries. When you talk about what needs to be done, it's exactly what Uncle was presenting. 4 things can be done. 1, we have been able to put in place a system of providing placement for students to be exposed to necessary skills and knowledge. We should be able to take stock of the challenges of the private sector in terms of research agenda and present them to universities. So the private sector need to play a role of influencing the research agenda in Africa by documenting the challenges and sharing them with the universities. That's a fundamental role. That outside. Somebody came and said, no, I need a job. I said, okay, fine. Let's talk. Where do I link you? I said, now, I talked to Lucy. 1 week, Lucy tells me, when this person was given opportunity, the first 3 days, I think she was very excited. And all the time, there are deadlines, but this person was spending all the time on Twitter and other things. You can only start and perfect along the way. A number of us, we want to first do perfection on paper. There is no successful business that you do on paper. Get going, start improving. Thank you.